In the early years of the North American League Championship Series, players and organizations banded together to legitimize competitive gaming as a mainstream spectacle. Now, the NA LCS is big business. It costs millions to field a team on that stage, and more than ever, the pressure is on players to perform. Rosters are constantly in flux as teams import international talent in the pursuit of winning an NA LCS Championship. Organizations need franchise players that they can build an identity and culture around. A player to lead their team for years to come. A player who won't waver when a new patch drops or new players are inserted into the starting lineup. A player that they can count on to hold a team together. A player like Sneaky.
What the fuck is up? Professional made streamer here.
So much pressure put on Cloud9. They lose to GA.
Oh my god!
He stole
the Elder Dragon!
Go to Dragon,
Let's rush Baron. Oh, Sneaky W.
Shit. Good job. Alright, nice.
Team fight, and that is something that is not that easy to pull out. Like that definitely. Oh, what? Oh!
Deadly flourish! Sneaky volley!
Still alive, will blast down Power of Evil, and we'll probably get Hurley Sang as well. And it will be the pentakill.
Zachary Sneaky Scuderi was born in Winter Springs, Florida, and played competitive World of Warcraft before League of Legends was released.
I grew up in Orlando before I moved out to California to pursue my career. My friends that got me into League, we kind of just played all the games together. We started off with WoW, which got us into Dota, and that's how I started with Here's a New Earth and moved into League of Legends through that.
Sneaky started his competitive LoL career in 2012 with Absolute Gaming, and like a lot of small tournament teams from that era, they only lasted about 4 months together. Sneaky then started his own team called Pulse Gaming, with Kenneth, Onion Bagel, Kevin, and Support Daddy. Pulse failed to qualify for the 2013 LCS Summer Promotional Tournaments at the MLG and IPL qualifier events they competed in, and as the team constantly shuffled their roster, Sneaky began to lose confidence in their ability to make it to the LCS.
It's actually really saddening losing that because you actually realize that you're not very good as a team. I remember our preparation was like, all right, go look up these guys' solo queues, whatever, all right, let's go. Nothing past that. There was no notebook to write down all the pick bands, like what our plan is. It was just pick whatever you feel like, basically.
So, in April 2013, Sneaky joined Quantic Gaming. Quantic had previously played under the Cloud9 banner without Sneaky during the promotional tournament for the inaugural LCS split in spring 2013, but were subsequently dropped by the organization after they failed to qualify. The new Sneaky empowered Quantic lineup, which also featured High, Balls, Meteos, and Lemon Nation, managed to qualify for the LCS Summer 2013 split and rejoined the Cloud9 organization. The classic C9 roster that became one of the cornerstones of the LCS and paved the way for the macro gameplay in North America we know today was born.
And they were the most impressive team in the promotion tournament, including Dignitas and CLG, who had been demoted there. They steamrolled Complexity 3-0 to earn their spot in the LCS.
Cloud9 was nothing short of dominant in their first LCS split. The team posted a 25-3 record during the regular season and rolled through the playoffs without dropping a single match.
He's got to hit the Nexus. With their eyes on the Nexus, their eyes on the summer split, completely undefeated in the series, 25-3 on the split.
Cloud9 does not drop a single game in the playoffs. And look at that. They are a team that works together and likes each other. That is the best team in North America.
To this day, that record still puts 2013 C9 as one of the most dominant teams in NA LCS history. During that first split, Sneaky left his mark on the league. He led all 80 carries with the 6.96 KDA and cleaned up on Ashe, with which he posted a whopping 11-0 record.
But X special flashes.
Oh, the first arrow! That's what I was talking about. We haven't seen one yet.
This could be bad. The Equalizer will be able to go across the front.
They lay it down into 3 members. The slicing maelstrom to follow. They thought they could get the dragon, but it cost them their lives.
the wall,
And the double lift right in the front of the fight. Triangle throws go up. He is not coming out of this one alive. Chauster, no, Link is going to be the next one. The carries are down.
That's why Cloud9 loves the Ashe so much.
Cloud9 qualified for the Season 3 World Championship. But despite earning a first-round bye, C9 were eliminated by the tournament's top EU seed.
7-0-7. Fnatic are going to go through to the semi-finals, taking down the North American champions, Cloud9.
C9 and Sneaky continued their dominance into 2014, where they once again won the split. And Sneaky once again sat atop the KDA leaderboard, not just for ADC, but across all 5 positions. When you look at the numbers, you can make a case for Sneaky being NA's best ADC in almost any LCS split he's played in.
Yeah, Sneaky's always been top tier North American AD carry. Sneaky was so consistent for this team. He just shows up every single day.
Much like C9, he's the model of consistency. C9 and Sneaky seem to understand macro play much quicker than the rest of the league, and Sneaky credits a lot of their success to this.
Wards on both sides of the jungle. They get to make whatever moves they want. They have that sort of map hack. They can make every decision correctly because they can see every single move that Curse are trying to make.
They were able to play as a team all over the map, and use High's shot calling and their overall game knowledge to play around Sneaky and snowball games.
Flash engage. Wow, yes, the odd one. He trades his life, but down goes Lemonation. Knock up from High. It's a 2 versus 3 in this battle to a certain extent. The fight's coming through. 1 for 1. Sorry, I got that one wrong. Here we go. The battle's coming across. Welcome to the backline. Gets the heal, staying alive. Bjergsen though gets locked down, and he's gonna fall. Sneaky cutting back away from Xpecial. High trying to help his team out, but Xpecial, the dash over the wall. Sneaky survives this one.
Between splits in 2014, C9 attended the International All-Star event without their mid laner High, who was sidelined with a collapsed lung. They went 3-1 in the group stage, only losing to Faker's SK Telecom. They would advance through groups where they were dispatched by one of the Chinese representatives, OMG Gaming.
And OMG get themselves into the finals here at the All-Star Invitational.
Cloud9 put NA on the map, making it clear that the region should not be overlooked internationally. In summer 2014, Sneaky and Cloud9 were met with real competition for the first time since they joined the LCS.
More than ever, Cloud9 may not be the first place team. CLG's looking very strong. We also don't know LMQ, how good are they, how bad are they?
Yeah, I think the team that has benefited the most from these roster changes is C9.
It was clear that the league was shifting as organizations were looking to improve their results by importing players and shuffling their rosters. But C9, ever the model of consistency, still fielded the same roster as their inaugural split. Cloud9 finished the split tied for first place with LMQ, an all-Chinese imported roster. They then lost the summer finals to Team Solo Mid, who are playing their second split with European superstar Bjergsen.
Yes, that's the game! TSM goes the full 5 and takes down Cloud9 to be the 2014 North American champions.
They have finally done it. They have defeated Cloud9 in the playoffs.
After the summer finals, it was time for Worlds again, where Cloud9 would make North American history. Cloud9 went 4-2 in their Worlds group stage and met Korean powerhouse Samsung Blue in the quarterfinals.
Look at the damage, Lemonation! 10 seconds! Gonna get one down! 8 seconds to low! They're gonna keep on this one! They're gonna go down!
Go for it! He's gonna go low! 2! Oh, doing the jump! Go for it!
What? They're up! They're up! They're up!
They're down! They cleared it! Samsung Blue of hell! And Nexus turret will be finished off the focus onto the Nexus, and Samsung Blue with an amazing ending here in game number 4 will win the best of 5 and move through to the semi-finals.
Cloud9 lost that series 3-1, but became the first NA team in the LCS era to take a game off of a Korean team at a major international tournament. Sneaky was a driving force in the series, showing that he could compete alongside the game's best AD carries.
The top level
Here comes the team. Sneaky goes around. He's going to keep on going. Death falls down. He goes down.
Balls in the back there. Emmanuel's falling into Akon. He's burning for that triple kill. Akon's won, but it's going to be a quadra for Sneaky. He finishes off it.
Cloud9 rode the momentum they had from Worlds into another postseason event at IEM San Jose, where Cloud9 and particularly Sneaky shined.
Instead coming around the side, Sneaky comes around. Could he clean second? Hillisan goes down. It's a double for Sneaky.
And then with Cloud9, high though, will go low. Sneaky finally joins in. 2 men are going down.
He's keeping them at bay, but only so long. A beautiful kick by Meteos. It doesn't get answered.
He's in the middle as well, but the damage onto him is massive. Sneaky will get the first one. Kikis is low. He was hooked in there by Elimination, and that means a 2 for 2 right now at least. But Sneaky, still alive, will blast down Power of Evil, and will probably get Hillisan as well. It cannot be the pentakill that will surely win Cloud9, the Intel Extreme Masters.
Their bursts of success on the international stage aside, the transition between summer 2014 and the 2015 LCS season was certainly a changing of the guard for Sneaky and Cloud9. They simply weren't the best anymore. Team Solo Mid had knocked them off their pedestal, and they weren't going to let them take it back anytime soon. Cloud9 went 12-6 in the 2015 spring split, rebounding after a shaky first 2 weeks. They went into the playoffs with a first-round bye and were second place overall behind TSM. But once again, they weren't able to defeat Bjergsen and company in the finals.
Wins for Team Solo Mid, the Nexus falls, and Team Solo Mid are the 2015 North American League of Legends Championship Series Spring Split champions.
Despite the veil of dominance being lifted from his team, Sneaky had stayed on course. He continued to show that he was the ADC to beat in the TSM and C9 rivalry.
He doesn't really get him there. Meteos with a 5-man Sejuani ultimate. If TSM can make it through this, they got it. But Cloud9 is locking them down. Bjergsen on the outside, he gets swapped in with the position reverser. How is TSM still alive in this one? They are doing everything they can, but Cloud9 closes the door on that fight.
Sneaky once again led all AD carries in KDA, and died less than any other bot lane marksman. Hai was removed from the mid lane prior to the summer season and replaced by Jensen, who was then known as Incarnation, a young European playmaker whose competitive lifetime ban was recently lifted.
I don't think the roster change was ever initially brought up by any of the players. I think it was just Jack looking out for us. No one really wanted to go our way to say, hey, I think we need to change a player out here.
As the 2015 summer split started, Cloud9 looked like a shadow of their former self.
The worst trend, though, is Cloud9, even after beating TSM with the first game of the split, now sits at 1-3.
Double lift on Ash. Is it the last shot? Double lift gets a pentakill, shutting down Sneaky.
And they shut down Cloud9, take home the victory.
And Cloud9 once again find themselves with the short end of the stick here after actually playing a strong game, but not finding the advantage that pushes them to the win just yet.
There's a lot of growing to do for this new Cloud9 squad with Incarnation instead of Hai.
Despite the fact that Sneaky was still making big plays in the bot lane, the team went 6-12 during the split, their worst record ever, and missed the playoffs for the first time in franchise history.
I'd say I definitely have thought a bit more about like not being on Cloud9, just because we're in such a bad spot right now.
After the split, Sneaky did his best to show that what remained of the old guard C9 roster could still compete.
Well, I think the only ever time that it was, talked about like leaving, that was kind of like a Riot pushed agenda. I never really said it. It was just like, you guys are doing terribly, Sneaky. What would you think about, joining a different team? And I'm like, yeah, we're like 8th place LCS right now.
They played in a regional finals gauntlet to try and secure the 3rd NA berth in Worlds that year. C9 was coming off one of their worst LCS performances ever, but the gauntlet gave them a chance to remain a beacon for North America on the international stage.
To be able to bring it back and actually go to Worlds would be amazing for us, considering our pretty terrible season.
as strange as it sounds to call Cloud9 a Cinderella story, they could go on a miracle run to secure their 3rd consecutive appearance at Worlds.
2-0, or I should say 0-2 that Gravity put them in, to go 3-2 versus Gravity in the first gauntlet game of the North American Summer Split. Cloud9 are moving on to take on Impulse.
Impulse had to give up the base, they give up the game, they give up the series. Cloud9 get the reverse sweep, and they're gonna face Team Liquid. That's gonna be the Nexus, that's gonna be the game, that's gonna be a trip to the World Championship for Cloud9.
Not only did C9 win the regional qualifier and get a spot at Worlds, but Sneaky dominated.
If they get something, it's going to be
very low. Piglets next! There's the cash-in! Plus 824! No ulti! Oh, Sneaky's gonna get it! Thank you! He's the next casualty. A double for Sneaky. There's the shockwave, there's the first kill. There's a second one. It's a 30-minute win. Cloud9's killed everybody. Ace in. Sneaky goes for more. He stuns Piglet. He gets a triple kill. But there's the cash-in. Sneaky takes him out. Quas is dead. On to the Nexus they go. A double for Sneaky. That's gonna be the Nexus. That's gonna be the game. That's gonna be a trip to the World Championship for Cloud9.
To the surprise of most, Cloud9 dominated the first week of Worlds, going a perfect 3-0 against some of the best teams in the world.
And they will take down the #1 team from the LMS. The ace, and they complete the 2-0 already at Worlds. It's Cloud9 who did it, the 4th that no one counted in.
And Fnatic looking so much better. This is a completely different AHQ. This is not a 1-2 AHQ, this is a 2-0.
Invictus Gaming pick up a win against Cloud9. And now they're into the base. AHQ looking for the play. The Malphite ult does not matter. There is no damage. There is no base left. There is only victory for AHQ. One final dunk on the other side of the map. It's like he's playing Space Jam. And AHQ will be the final team out of Group B.
Prior to the 2016 LCS season, C9's persistence to keep much of their lineup together caught up to them. Teams like Immortals were boasting impressive imported talent in the likes of Huni and Reignover, and just being consistent wasn't going to be enough for C9. Even their biggest rival TSM were making the changes necessary to stay on top, bringing in Doublelift, Yellowstar, and Svenskeren. C9 made a few changes as well to try to keep up with the quickly shifting NA LCS. Lemon Nation had retired, and C9 added both jungler Rush and support player Bunny Fufu to their roster. Bunny split time with Hai in the bot lane as the organization was trying to reshape the roster around Sneaky.
Well, it's definitely a different atmosphere when we have Bunny in the team, because Hai is like the super shot caller where he's trying to always talk, but when we have Bunny in the team, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but he's like a bit less talkative, like less commanding, and then Rush kind of like takes over a little bit of the role, so it's like shared between him and Bunny.
The 2016 Spring Split was just as lackluster as their Worlds run. They finished 3rd at NA during the split and lost to TSM in the playoffs again. It was at the end of this split that Cloud9 took the rebuilding plan to a new level. They shuffled around their LCS roster with their challenger team. Impact in the top lane, Meteos in the jungle, Jensen was now full-time in the mid lane, Sneaky at AD carry as always, and Bunny Fufu and newcomer Smoothie split time in the support role. During that year, C9 matched their 12-6 record from Spring, making it back to the finals for the first time in 3 splits. Sneaky finished second behind Doublelift in KDA and had an impressive split, acting as a stabilizing presence for a roster that was just learning how to play around each other. But once again, there they were defeated by TSM.
And in their way as TSM cement themselves as the most dominant organization in North American League of Legends and win their 4th North American Championship.
You're looking at Cloud9 right now, you can see the disappointment because they know they had some chances in that 4th game to force a Game 5. And now if they want to go to Worlds, they have to make it through the regional qualifier.
C9 competed at Worlds again after the season to another quarterfinals exit.
And it It looks like Samsung Galaxy will be moving on to the semifinals at Madison Square Garden.
They had overhauled the majority of their roster, but still weren't getting the championship results they were looking for. Meteos left the team, and Contracts was called up to fill the hole in the jungle for spring 2017.
I think we'll be pretty ready for this spring split. It's pretty important to us. I think it's going to be a pretty big lead into summer, and if we can perform now, which we should be able to from our practice, then it'll really help us out a lot.
Just as the split was set to begin, Sneaky was the only member of the original Cloud9 left standing.
Does it feel weird thinking about that? Like, I mean, you are the original. You're the only one left. You get lonely?
Yeah, I don't know about lonely, but I definitely kind of been thinking about that a little bit more as of recently. Like, I was playing against Meteos in scrims, and we were like winning one of the games really hard. I started feeling really sad for Meteos because I'm just like, I want to see him do well.
Even though major changes had finally come to one of the LCS's original powerhouses, the results were the same. This new-look Cloud9 went 14-4 in the regular season, only to lose another playoff final to TSM.
TSM are going to end it. There's an ace. Here we go. It's the game. TSM fight tooth and nail to defend the North, but once again, NA LCS champions.
In a lot of ways, both Cloud9 and Sneaky have followed the same enigmatic path through their time in the LCS. They're always good, always in the conversation among NA's best, but it had been a while since they sat atop the standings. Cloud9 went from the shining star of the NA LCS to the league's perennial second fiddle. They rallied back from a slow start in 2017 summer to make the playoffs, only to be ousted in the quarterfinals by Dignitas. Now we've recently seen their 2018 run come to an end in similar fashion. They looked impressive for the majority of the first half of the split, but faltered a little heading into playoffs to finish 12-8. Team Liquid then knocked them out of the playoffs in the quarterfinals for the second time in a row. Doublelift getting the better of Sneaky once again, this time in another uniform. Sneaky had a solid year, but it just hasn't been good enough since as far back as spring 2014.
And they're the North American champions.
Throughout his career with Cloud9, Sneaky's stream has always been a major part of his identity as a player. Just like on the Rift, Sneaky's stream has been consistent ever since he began his career in the LCS. It's on stream where he garnered his reputation as a bit of a memer.
Oh no! I'm going with my eyeball. Live Sneaky. Ah! Oh, the hero.
When Meteos comes in hot, don't cuck me, Jake, go! Help!
Oh! Sneaky's always good for a few dozen feels-good mans a week on stream. He's always laid back and joking around with his chat. His streams are just like his playing career. Not always making headlines, not breaking viewership records, but always there, always entertaining, and always worth your attention. Sneaky streams about 3 or 4 times a week, even during the season. While comparable names like Doublelift or Bjergsen can be a little more streaky, sometimes taking weeks off at a time. Sneaky recently made headlines for his on-stream Lux cosplay, a long-term sub-goal that drew attention from all over the eSports world. Streaming often allows us a little look into the lives of pro players, whether it's Bjergsen's laser focus or Doublelift's constant trash talk. The biggest takeaway from what you see from Sneaky on stream is the kind of unshakable attitude he exudes on the LCS stage. No matter just how much his chat is flaming him, he's always got the same nonchalant attitude, and then hits them with a feels bad man. We've arrived in an LCS world where organizations are franchised for the long term. In this new world, Sneaky is the image of the consummate professional. But amidst another just okay split, Sneaky has stood still. There's a lot of question marks surrounding C9 going forward, but there's one thing we can likely count on. Sneaky will hold down the bot lane for C9, and he'll continue to be the cornerstone that holds this iconic franchise together.
I want to keep playing professionally as long as I can. I don't think there's ever a stopping point, so I'm not going to stop it 5 years from now. I'm just going to keep on going because there's nothing else I'd rather do.
Thanks for watching. If you want more great content just like this, be sure to hit the subscribe button.